The single most important skill you can cultivate as an entrepreneur is habit formation. Interestingly, people don't think of habits as a skill unto themselves. They think of habits as things that you apply to skills. But the habit of forming habits, the skill of forming habits, is something that not only can you cultivate, but you can strengthen. I've spent most of my adult life, since I was about 17 years old, studying habit formation. And I've got the Cliff Notes version of everything that I studied, and I want to walk through it with you today. And then, honestly, I'd love to be challenged and improved. And so if there's something I'm missing or something you think I would benefit from, I'd love to hear from you. My name is Qasim. I've built $6 million and multi-million-dollar businesses. I've had 2 successful exits, 1 for 8 figures. I've generated a $10,000,000 net worth. And my goal in life is to help you achieve 3x freedom. That's financial freedom, freedom of dimension, and freedom of purpose. And in order to do that, we have to have quality habits. What I'd like to do here is just share with you what I think it takes in order to do that. The first and most important thing to integrate is you can't fix everything at once. And I don't know about you, but I'll tell you the way that I used to do it. I would get really upset and depressed. I'd be just frustrated with myself, and I wasn't waking up, or I wasn't working out, or I wasn't working as much as I should be, or I was smoking. Just the things that would really atrophy the quality of my life would start to build and build and build and build. And then one day I'd have enough. And, I'd stay up all night journaling, and I'd plan everything out, and I'd put my workout clothes by the bench, and I was going to change the way that I was going to change my sleep schedule. So I was going to wake up early, and I was going to work out, and I was going to eat healthy, and I was going to work my ass off at work, and I was not going to smoke, and I was going to drink more water, and interestingly, I usually made it about a week or two. 2 was a long time, but I could generally go about a week before something slipped. And then once one thing slipped, another thing slipped. And then after that thing slipped, everything slipped. And then, it was just this roller coaster ride of trying to be productive and then failing, and trying to be productive and failing. And every single time I failed, it was like a vote in my head for my identity as a failure. And it made it harder and harder and harder. Every promise you break to yourself makes every subsequent promise less valuable. It's less important. And that's true of anybody. If you've ever had anybody in your life that breaks promises to you, after a while, you just you can still love them, but you're like, yeah, I don't believe you. I don't believe you that you're actually going to do the thing that you say that you're going to do. This is true for you too. We have to start small. And if you've broken trust with yourself in the past, you actually have to work really hard to re-earn that trust. If that's not something you're willing to take seriously, then I think you're going to have a really hard time with habit formation, because habit formation is an agreement you make with yourself. And in order to make an agreement with yourself, you have to honor yourself. Agreements can only be made between 2 people that mutually respect each other. Right? If one person doesn't respect the other, then the agreement it's valueless, it's worthless. It's only as valuable as the respect that's held between the 2 people. That's the thing that's holding that agreement together. And so you have to build respect for yourself if you don't have it. And I'm not saying you don't respect yourself, generally speaking, but it might be that if you've broken promises to yourself in the past, maybe you don't respect yourself along that level of analysis, just along the level of analysis of habit formation. Here's what we're going to do. My very strong recommendation to you: fix one thing at a time. And this is always going to be true, by the way. The template for habit formation is one habit at a time. But what I'm going to ask of you for the sake of this exercise is you start small. And I mean really small, something really accessible, something that doesn't scare you at all, something that doesn't feel like it's a big lift. And the reason for that is because you want to give yourself just the layup. Like, let's just get this thing done. And the way to internalize that, you're not going to be excited about it, right? It might be like downloading a breath work app and just doing 5 minutes of breath work a day, or drinking more water, something that just feels no pressure. Because the point of the first habit we cultivate isn't the habit itself. It's beginning to cultivate the habit of building habits. And so you're actually, in a weird way, it's like habit inception. It's meta, right? You're cultivating 2 habits at once this time. That's a difficult undertaking. And so don't look at the ease of the habit that we're choosing. Instead, look at the difficulty of the exercise itself, and then give yourself the grace to do something easy. I realize this isn't fun. We want to go after habits that excite us. Like that's why working out is the habit everybody goes to, because you can picture yourself. I can picture myself with just like massive arms and rock hard abs, and that'll get me excited enough to wake up, and I can do that for about a week or 2. Then I fall off. So let's start small. And if you're underwhelmed, that's probably good, because habit formation cannot rely on motivation. That's the second really important thing for you to know. Remember, first really important thing for you to know, we're building one habit at a time. The second really important thing to know, motivation is deadly. Habits are the things you do when you're not motivated. So if you're relying on your motivation in order to accomplish your habits, you're setting yourself up for failure, because on a long enough timeline, you're not going to be motivated. But there will come a time, there will come a day, I don't care if you're the most motivated person in the whole wide world, there's going to come a day where your motivation tank is empty. Habits are the things that you do when you're not motivated. I really love the quote, we don't rise to the level of our capabilities, we fall to the level of our systems. Our systems are our habits. So we're going to start small, we're going to start with one habit at a time, and we're not going to rely on motivation. So if you feel underwhelmed right now, if I haven't fired you up, good. A couple of data points, things that are really important for you to know. The first is that it takes 66 days to form a habit. This comes from research, I think, that was done by BJ Fogg at Stanford University. 66 days wasn't just the average, it was also the peak of the bell, just in terms of aggregating the data. If you've ever heard 21 days, then that comes from Maxwell Maltz's book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And it was an anecdotal observation from a plastic surgeon as to how long it takes people to get used to their new features or their new face. There was much science behind that, but for some reason, the whole world, the whole self-improvement world picked up that timeline because we didn't have one. And so it was something. Something was better than nothing. It takes 66 days to form a habit. Now, I like to round that up to 70. And the reason I like to round that up to 70 is because that's a nice round 10 weeks. Especially with habit formation, I like to track in weeks. You think in days, but you track in weeks. And the reason that I like to do that is because it's more or less the way that our lives are structured, right? School's broken down in weeks, work's broken down in weeks, vacation time's broken down in weeks. Like, weeks are these real clean little blocks of time. There's a cycle to the week that really helps you make sure that you're executing on your habit throughout the week, not just, Monday through Friday, let's say. 10 weeks to cultivate a habit, 70 days, which means you can build 5 habits a year. Now, that should also be kind of deflating, because you're like, but dude, I want to work out, and I want to change the way that I diet, and I want to, work harder, and there's way more than 5 things. Okay, but we tried doing them all at once, remember? And it didn't work. So if you can just commit to doing one habit at a time, I think what you'll find is the compound interest over time is really going to pay off, because you're actually going to build these habits, as opposed to just dreaming about this human that you could be, theoretically speaking. You're going to build these habits, and every habit that you build makes the next habit easier to build. So just bear with me, and we'll get through kind of the data and the science, let's say. The next thing that's really important to integrate, and you're going to hate this, and I know that because I hate it, is habits, generally speaking, need to be every day, not some days, not Monday, Wednesday, Friday, not every Saturday. To habituate something, we have to do it every single day. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, and we can dive into the nuances, but let's leave that alone for just a minute. If you really want to habituate, whatever the act is, if you want to habituate exercise, do it every day. And then, all the exercise buffs come screaming out of the woodwork saying you can't exercise every day, you need a rest day. Fine. Habituate setting time aside for physical health, and maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday you actually lift weights, and then Tuesday, Thursday, and the weekend you go for a walk. The point is we need to habituate taking that time and setting it aside for our physical well-being. And so I'm not telling you have to do the exact same thing every day. What I am saying, though, is you need to habituate the interruption, let's say, until it's no longer interruption and it becomes a habit. That's a really good way to think about habits, by the way. Habits are interruptions that you want to turn into your normal cadence, your second nature. And in order to do that, in order to habituate an act, you have to do it every day. It needs to be done every day. It has to be consistent. Another thing that's really important to know is habits are do's, not don'ts. A habit is exercise. A habit is not don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat sugar. If there are things that you want to quit doing, the way to do that through proper habit cultivation is to replace it with something that you do. So, instead of smoking, I'm going to, every time I feel stressed or I even feel the inclination to smoke, I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to drop down and do 30 push-ups, or whatever it ends up being. Instead of, eating sugar, anytime I feel like I have that craving, I'm going to go floss my teeth, which I know sounds really crazy, by the way, but somebody shared that with me, and my golly, it actually works. Like, every time you feel like you need sugar, go floss and brush your teeth. And it doesn't make the sugar craving go away entirely, but it's obnoxious enough of a process that you actually kind of stop trying to go after the sugar right out of the gate, as long as you're disciplined with it. So make your habits do's and not don'ts. To begin, pick one, and pick an easy one. We're not trying to change our life right now. We're trying to build the habit of building habits. We're going to codify the process of habit formation. Give up on the idea of massive change. We want Kaizen. We want 1% improvement every day. We've all seen the graphs that show the hockey stick of compound interest. That's what's going to happen in your life if you commit to the habit formation process. A really easy one is just learn something new. If there's a YouTube channel you really like, just commit to watching that channel every single day for 10 minutes. Commit to reading every single day for 10 minutes. Download a Kegel app and do Kegels every single day for 10 minutes. Whatever it is that would be easy and accessible and maybe fun. Maybe make your first one fun, so it's something that you look forward to and you actually have the momentum of fun with you, so that when you're not motivated, you're at least like, well, this is an enjoyable thing for me to do. I'd caution you greatly against, a massive lift. Please don't pick exercise. A couple of notes: avoid evening habits. And there's a few reasons for this. Statistically speaking, habits slip in the evening more than in the morning for obvious reasons, and you're not giving yourself any margin of error, right? So let's say that you do, just for whatever reason, something goes horribly wrong and there's a fire at work and you have to roll out of bed and you're not able to execute on your habit in the morning. Well, then you've got the late morning, the afternoon, the early evening, the evening. You have other places where you can insert kind of a redemption opportunity. For the first habit that you're choosing, try not to choose an evening habit. Choose something that's in the morning. That way it can cascade throughout the day if you do accidentally slip. Which leads me to my second note for you. Pro tip is have a backup plan. Be flexible with yourself. If your plan is, hey, I'm going to wake up every morning and I'm going to read for 10 minutes. Great. That's awesome. What happens if you miss it? What happens if one of your kids has an accident and you're not able to do it in the morning? Now it's like, oh gosh, I'd probably be able to get that done during my lunch period. Have a backup plan. Have a couple. Put yourself in a position where you're acknowledging the fact that, hey, along this 10-week, epoch, I could probably miss a couple. And so how can I insert this so I'm still getting the habit done? Now, interestingly, the science says habits stick when context remains static. Generally speaking, you want the same place at the same time with the same environment. The more similarities you can build around your habit, the more likely it is that the habit sticks. In a perfect world, you're doing your habit every single day in the same place at the same time. Not all of us have that luxury. You might be a pilot or a flight attendant and you're like, dude, I'm in a different city every single day. So try to anchor it as much as you can. Even if you're in a different city, you go to bed and you wake up. So you wake up in a bed. Might not be your bed, but you wake up in a bed. And so you're like, all right, when I wake up, when I sit up in bed, the very first thing I do is make my bed, which is a great starting habit, by the way, if you want to play the make your bed game. There's that Navy SEAL that has that whole talk about making your bed. Generally speaking, putting habits at the same place, time, etc., is going to help you codify the habit and have backup plans, because the codification of the habit isn't just context dependent. There's also those little votes, a little vote for who you are. You're changing your identity. And if you can put yourself in a position where you have a couple of backup opportunities, it still helps you codify that identity as a person who now makes their bed or drinks more water or reads in the morning. Another pro tip is go through your calendar for the next 10 weeks and identify the risk. Get out ahead of them. Like, oh gosh, kids are on spring break for this whole week. I'm going to be kind of under the gun then. Or, me and my spouse are going on vacation, or I've got a work trip, whatever it might be. Flash forward into the future, look at all 10 weeks and identify the risks, and then decide what you're going to do in order to make sure that you still execute on your habits. You don't let yourself off the hook. This isn't, oh, it's my anniversary and I'm just not going to do it. No, it's not the way habits work. We're going to be disciplined. That's what you're trying to build. So it's your anniversary. Great. Maybe you're not going to wake up as early, but when you wake up, you still read. And maybe that means that we push some of the excursions back. We're going to Costa Rica for our anniversary and we want to go, windsurfing or whatever. Awesome. Flash forward and mitigate risks. The other thing about habit formation is focus on doing the simplest thing. Let's say that the habit we want to form is going to the gym. Well, you are successful the minute you walk through the gym doors. And then after that, everything else is gravy. So if you're tracking your habits, and you absolutely should be, by the way, that's going to be one of my pro tips that I end with. If and when you're tracking your habits, you get a little green check mark the minute you walk through the gym doors, right? Or maybe your gym's at home and it's the minute you put your gym clothes on and you go down to the basement or the garage or your workout room or your rec room. The minute you've done that, done. I've gone to the gym. I've walked through the doors. Making sure that you're tracking the minimum viable thing puts you in a position of cultivating a habit without putting so much pressure on the result. Because what if you're sick? What if you get the flu? What if you get long COVID? And you're like, gosh, I just can't do this. That's okay. Put your gym clothes on, go walk down into the gym, do one sit up, go right back upstairs and go to bed. I've done this. All it's doing is just a vote for who you are. It's helping you change your identity, which was one of the most important things about habits, is identifying yourself as a person who does this thing. The other thing that you have to be really honest about is the cost of habits. What is the cost of you cultivating this habit? If you're going to wake up early, there goes your nightlife, right? It just is what it is. Everything has a cost. All of life is a balance of risks, and we can either ignore that or we can integrate it. When you're honest about the costs of your habits up front, hey, I'm going to wake up early in the morning. And if I'm being really honest with myself, that means that I'm going to miss out. And I'm going to miss out on, some late nights with friends, maybe some events. They always have cocktail parties at these events that I go to. And I'm just not going to be able to go, or I'm not going to be able to go for very long. And what's nice about having that conversation now is when I end up at the event and, it's 7:00 and I'm about to pack it in, and everybody's like, no, Qasim, what are you doing? You stay out, have one more drink. And I get to have already been prepared for those conversations. Nope, appreciate y'all. And I'm not tempted, right? I'm not like, oh, golly, I didn't realize that this is what it is. Be honest about the cost. The other thing that I'd strongly encourage you to do, this is critical, celebrate. When you accomplish your habit every day, put my gym clothes on, walk through the door, I'm at the gym. Woke up, opened my book, I started to read. Let yourself feel the win. And for most of us, if you're an entrepreneur or business owner, we're not good at that. We're not good at celebrating ourselves. We're not good at feeling the wins. We're really good at being hard on ourselves. And that's helpful in a lot of instances. This isn't one of them. You need the cookie jar, as David Goggins calls it. You need the ability to feel successful in order to reinforce this behavior. If you're just making yourself feel like a failure over and over and over and over again, two people are making an agreement. What incentive does the person who's being beat up every single day have to continue to do the thing they're supposed to do if they're not being rewarded for it? Celebrate, feel it, stop for a moment, just be like, God, I did that. I did it and I'm proud. Pat yourself on the back. Go for it. The impact is significant. It's going to help you reinforce these habits. Build the habit of building habits. And I've walked through, more or less the building blocks of habit formation here. Choose one, choose something small every single day, same time, same place, have backup plans, make sure that you're celebrating, track your habits, use a habit tracking app. There's a billion of them out there. There's Habit Bowl and Habit Share. And I think Apple has something that's more or less native now. Find whatever works for you. Pen and paper if you want to. Just check it off a box. Sometimes that's really fun. But track your habits so you can see the daisy chain that you're building. Because what's really cool about it is if you get 4 or 5 or 6 little check marks in place, you don't want to break that chain. That's enough to keep you going very often. So make sure you track your habits and build the habit of building habits. First of all, if you haven't done that yet, go stop watching this video and go do that. If you're still here, here's what I'll tell you. There is a magic habit that if you look at most successful people, they've been able to cultivate this habit. I think the artistic types you can set aside. The magic habit, you're going to hate it, by the way. It's not a fun habit, and it's repulsive, and everybody hates it. It'll be the most powerful thing you've ever done for yourself if you can do this consistently, and it's waking up early. It's hard. You want to wake up 2 hours earlier than you need to. So if you need to be up at 6 to, get the kids ready and get them to school, then wake up at 4. And I know what I just said sounded like, oh golly, but I'm telling you, the most powerful thing I've ever done for myself is wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have more day than most people have. I get more done than most people could ever possibly dream of. If you've read the books, like the gray matter accessibility in your brain is higher and you're more productive and you're more creative and your access to theta brainwave state is higher. Like all these things that I don't understand any of those words that I just said, but there's just nothing about waking up in the morning that's bad for you. You work out better, you're fresher, you're clearer of mind, nobody's bugging you. Don't jump straight into your emails. Work on the things that are important to you. This should not be the first habit that you cultivate. First, build the habit of building habits. Once you've done that, then build the magic habit. It's waking up 2 hours ahead of time. The other thing that's really interesting is there's something called habit stacking. There's a book called Habit Stacking. I'll leave a link to all my favorite books on habits in the description of this video. But what's nice about habit stacking is once you've built one really powerful habit, I wake up early, I exercise, I eat well. There's all these little habits along the periphery that kind of get built on top of it. And then you don't have to go through this 10-week process. And I'm hesitant to say that in the beginning when I'm teaching people about habit formation because they want to cheat, right? They want to bundle 13 things on top of each other. And that's not necessarily the way that it works. But you will see smaller habits just come along for the ride. It's like a gravitational pull. You're like, gosh, when I wake up earlier, it's so much easier for me to work out, which is true, by the way. You decide where to start. I'd encourage you to pick something very small. But once you've built the habit of building habits, the magic habit is waking up early. And if you can do that, here's the thing though, you have to do it every single day. You have to do it every single day. Monday through Monday, even the weekends. The luxury I allow myself is on the weekends, I'll still wake up early. I do my habit stack, which takes me about an hour to 90 minutes, depending on what it is I'm doing. And then if I'm still tired, I'll take a nap. And that just makes sure that I don't fall behind in life, right? But I will say that building my habit stack it's been profoundly impactful, not just on my professional life, but also my personal life. I have a whole host of health issues, and I'm not the only one. 90% of Americans have some chronic disease these days because I think, seed oils and processed foods and, industrialization and all this stuff in the air and the water. And because of my health issues, there was a point at which I thought my mind and body were disintegrating. And the only thing that kept me going was my ability to form habits and stick to habits. And, as healthy as I can be, I'm there because of my habits. So for whatever it's worth, build up your habit stack. Build the habit of building habits and then protect it and guard it with your life. And people that encourage you to break your habits don't belong anywhere near you. You've got that buddy who you love, by the way, he's not a bad guy or gal, but it's like, come on, just tonight, just this one time, nope, sorry, dude. We're different pages, you and I, different books, different shelves, different library. You're not even in the library because you're a dummy. But you know what I mean? Like, you have to be willing to let those people go. I hope this was helpful. Would love to hear your ideas, your thoughts, your comments. If there's something that I'm not doing that I need to do from a habit perspective, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.